Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in to ChannelBK. My name is Brian. Classic album review, just in time for fall, going into the spoopy season. I know we just did Ghost, we did Godspeed, and now we're doing Spiderland by Slint. Slint is a sort of acclaimed, I say sort of not because of any insults, because they're not a huge renowned group at the time, but they have spawned a cult following, and obviously with this album they've gained a lot of notoriety. But they're from Louisville, Kentucky. You know, they're a band, you know, they're a rock group from Louisville, Kentucky. That's all you need to know about all of that. But anyways, this album is something very exciting to me because every time I do a classic review, there's always a different stipulation. Every once in a while, I'll maybe discuss what that is. Sometimes I don't. I feel like it's important to talk about it with this album because I think for a lot of what this record is doing, it's very groundbreaking, and it's such a shame that the group disbanded like right before this album came out, because it would have been so fascinating to see where they've gone with this sound. The sound that's a blueprint for a lot of groups that have cited it as an influence. It's ironic that I just did Godspeed as a classic review because this is an album that has a lot of elements that Godspeed does very well. There's obviously lyrics and stuff on here, and these are more kind of put together songs. But the whole loud to soft transitions and some of just the way that the sonics are on here with the guitars and the drums have sort of that post-rock feel to them. Brian McMahon is the lead of the group, and I bring him up in particular because everyone on this album is a shining star, but with him it was something that I wasn't expecting for this album. I've heard a lot of things about it, and I wasn't anticipating him to sort of be, again, I don't look at this as like a blueprint in this way, but it reminds me a lot of what Mark Kozelek is doing nowadays. Like after Benji, I was just, again, very fascinated going into this record and finishing it for the first time because I was very just in awe of what was going on, because there's a lot of it that is so minimal, but it's also very meticulous. Obviously, math rock is a big thing that is labeled on this album, which math rock is something that I think from a technical perspective is really cool, but a lot of it hasn't ever resonated with me. But this album definitely does that, mainly with the production, the way it's presented, and the lyrics on here. I was also very shocked to see that it's only 6 tracks. It's a short album, but it feels like it goes by so quick. And all of this has started with Breadcrumb Trail, which is a very simple love story of the narrator who goes to this carnival to get his fortune taken, but instead of him getting his fortune taken, he asks the girl to go on a roller coaster with him. And it's sort of this tale of love, the first sight of love, falling in love. And the music on here is very quaint. It's simple. I love the guitars that dong, dong, bong. And then again, Brian's delivery is very spoken word-esque until it gets to the chorus, which is the moment that they're going down on this roller coaster and he's just screaming just these poetic lyrics in this emotional way. And then the entire chorus gets super loud, distorted, it's fuzzy, it says boom, ba-da-ba-dum, boom. I'm getting over a sinus infection. I heard myself try to get to that high guitar note, but I couldn't. But yeah, this song is such a great way to open the album. And again, listening to this record, I was very shocked at how much they do with the music on here. Again, there are lyrics. Some songs, there's a lot more to it. Some songs, they're a lot more minimal. And every time that the lyrics go away, the music just does such a great job. This song is very much put together as a very normal song though, and it's a great way to open the album. Nosferatu Man is, again, this really great storytelling piece. Brian uses, obviously, Nosferatu / Dracula to paint the imagery on here. It also works really well with the sound of it, and the time signature on here messes with your head, and again, the eerie vibes are so great. The boom, boom, boom. And it has a really great rhythm to it. When it gets to the chorus, it's like and then it speeds up a little bit in the second half, and it it keeps driving, and you're getting just this intense sonic sound. Very redundant, but it's just very in your face. And again, the way that he's using the Dracula imagery to paint this song, again, it's one of those, lyrically, he's doing a great job. Sonically, it's doing a great job as well. But after these two songs, where it's kind of this quiet to loud, we get a great slow track, Don Aman, which is a very stripped back guitar piece. The story being about someone who is antisocial. And it's one of those typical, this guy goes to a party and he doesn't feel like he can talk to anyone, and he's trying to, you know, talk to people, but he's anxious and depressed. He goes home and he realizes, like, that's kind of who he wants to be. The imagery of him looking in the mirror and realizing that's his only friend is very, it's like beautiful, but really like sad and depressing. And it just, I mean, it has a nice transition into the following song, Washer, which I say nice in kind of a lukewarm way, because this song could be interpreted as a suicide note. The imagery here is chilling, and it really just sounds like kind of like this goodbye. The ending is really chilling too, where he's painting this metaphor of, you know, all these thoughts are gone from my head, which could be related to a gunshot wound, and then his feet feeling warm, which it could be the blood dripping down, and how he, you know, is not afraid to feel pain, and he doesn't want to feel pain, and how he doesn't have to do that, which is ironic because it's just that double entendre of he has already killed himself. And again, musically, there's a really just somber vibe. I love the way the guitars sound on here. Bum, 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 bum. I think Brian's vocals too on here are the best on the album as well. They're just, there's a passion and there's like this vulnerability to it that I think is just haunting. And again, it's very captivating. So after all this, you're getting all these dark themes and the sounds are dark, and then we get to For Dinner, which is just an instrumental track. I don't like to be this guy that's always like, the worst song on an album is the instrumental, blah, blah. In the context of the album and the way that it's sequenced, I think it's a great fit. I think when you're going through the album full on, it's fantastic. Again, it's very dark. I really like the part on here too where the guitar is like strumming, and then when it goes slow, or it just kind of does the one ding, and then you hear the boom, boom, boom with the drums. I think that's, again, very meticulous, very creative, and again, I don't think the song is bad or anything. I think on its own, it's definitely good, and I would say it's probably my least favorite on here if I had to pick one. However, it has a really nice placement on the album because it, again, kind of gives you a little bit of a mental break before we get to Good Morning Captain, which is the huge finale to the album. Bum, 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 ba-da-dum, bum. I think the drums on here are very well done. They're probably the most vibrant on the album as well. I think the drums are fantastic, but on this song in particular, there's just such a great feeling to them. And the storytelling on here goes back to Nosferatu Man, where it could be looked at the story of this boy who is maturing. There's a lot of stuff on here talking about, you know, growing old and leaving your childhood behind. There's a lot of that imagery here, but it's painted in a story where it's the ship captain, and the finale of this song is just great with him just screaming, just these haunting, again, simple haunting lyrics. I miss you, boom, 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 boom. And it's huge and epic, and then it just ends. And then you're just so like, wait a minute, the album's over. Like it's the journey that it takes you on at some points could be very simple, very straightforward. But there's so many layers to this album too, and so many other things going on that really are just captivating and interesting. And again, it's a shame that Slint didn't really do that much after this album. And it's a shame because, again, this album is very influential, and it obviously became a huge cult classic. And it's an album that a lot of musicians and critics and, you know, fans and whatnot talk about as being fantastic. And yeah, it's great. Again, it's not this hugely accessible record. On the surface, there is some stuff, but deep down it's definitely one of those albums that is a hard listen for your average listener, and I don't blame people for that. But I think it's fantastic. It's a classic. It's groundbreaking. I love it. So if you agreed or disagreed with anything I said, let me know. Like, comment, subscribe, please. You know, it helps me out. I do other classic reviews. I do other stuff on this channel. Go check all that out. And other than that, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for tuning in to Channel BK. Peace out, everyone.